Reference to my CD, debut CD, Memoirs of a Neo-Soul Poet. A lot of people haven't been exposed or gotten a chance to even understand or know anything about Neo-Soul poetry, so it's kind of a shocker. You know what I'm saying? Like, what's going on? What is this stuff Hakim is doing? You know what I'm saying? And that's because the way the music industry is set up. It's set up to, you know, cater to specific genres of music. And if there's other genres of music out there that exist that haven't been promoted by or sustained through the popular media of music industry, you know what I'm saying? You got, you know, jazz, rock and roll, hip hop, blues, pop music, you know what I'm saying? Rap, you know what I'm saying? Funk. You got these various things of that nature. And Neo-Soul poetry is not one of those musical genres that, you know, you've been introduced to. But yet, in itself, it's one of the most influential musical movements in music, in all actuality. As much as gospel music is influential, gospel music is influential in R&B, in Neo-Soul, a lot of artists that we know of comes out of the church. You know what I'm saying? And that's because there's a heavy sustainable music foundation in the church. Well, likewise with Neo-Soul poetry or Neo-Soul, a lot of the musical genres that exist today come out of spoken word poetry. You know what I'm saying? Like hip-hop, for example, comes out of a poetic movement, you know what I'm saying, of spoken word poetry. It comes out of a specific era in time in which there was a vacuum, if you will, historically. It was a historical vacuum in the late 70s, after the dissipation of the Black Panther movement, the Black Conscious movement, the civil rights struggles. After they dissipated and it kind of, you know, the walls of it got torn down and there was no longer a struggle because industries had shifted and the economy had shifted and the war had just, you know, ended, the Vietnam War and things of that nature. It created a whole different climate of life in America. And hip-hop was born out of the consequences in the aftermath of all those various elements inside New York, inside the Bronx, through gentrification and things of that nature, which heavily affected New York residents and put New York residents in a predicament and position to create a sustainable life and culture for themselves, because they had nothing else to turn to and attach themselves to, because the foundation that made up their life, their community, their society had been stripped from them through gentrification. I don't know if you understand what gentrification means, but it means when outside industries come in and remove entire populations of people from one area to another. This happened in Lansing, Michigan. I used to live in Lansing, Michigan in '89 through '91. And this happened in Lansing, Michigan on Logan Street, which is now MLK, which a lot of young people in Lansing aren't even aware of. The West Side was a whole different environment. The West Side was kind of like the Bronx, New York. It was the hood, you know what I'm saying? And everybody in the city that got money in the streets, you know what I'm saying, that was tied into a lot of the industries that come out of life of poverty, such as various hustles, the numbers, pimping, drugs, alcohol, you know, all those things were sustainable on Logan Street, Logan and Allegan, Logan and Saginaw, Logan and Shiawassee, you know what I'm saying, Logan and Kalamazoo, Busy Bees and the Fish Market, and various other places, you know what I'm saying. Me and a lot of different homies from Detroit, you know, we were set up down there because we were part of the street life back then. We were part of the youth movement, the youth culture of street life, and we didn't know, you know what I'm saying. But my point, going back to the late 70s, early 80s, when hip-hop emerged, it emerged out of a climate and culture in which this was the consequences of it. The poverty, the gentrification affected the people, and it made them have to go out and rebuild a new sustainable culture, because their community that sustained their culture, sustained their life, had been uprooted from them. In essence, that created an opportunity for self-expression, to express the pain, the suffering, the injustice of the gentrification that affected Bronx, New York, and other areas of New York. And what emerged out of that was hip-hop. And it emerged out of it, out of our natures being musical, but it emerged out of us wanting to express how we felt about our community, our culture, what was going on. This is the reason why, like I mentioned in another video about Grandmaster Flash and Furious 5 and the groundbreaking song The Message, which, if it wasn't for the song The Message, which was really a collage of a spoken word rap that showcased and opened up the window to the struggles of the urban community so-called ghetto, things of that nature. You know, I happen to come out of that particular environment, you know, being raised in that era, and I'm kind of blessed and at the same time cursed to be from that generation, because I'm from the generation that also witnessed the first introduction of crack cocaine into the streets of urban America in the early mid-'80s. So with that happening, you know what I'm saying, it greatly affected what was to emerge as a consequence out of music. Like I say, hip-hop, you know, kind of like emerged out of spoken word. And what I'm doing with my music is I'm bringing back to the forefront what makes up, you know what I'm saying, the bedrock of explaining and expressing how we feel about various issues critical to us all, specifically for myself, about the passion and pain of my own struggle and sufferings. You know what I'm saying? And this is what music does. You know, in music we express our pain, our passion, our love, our joy, our happiness, you know what I'm saying, things of this nature. And so neo-soul poetry is going to take center stage because there's a lot of underground neo-soul poets out there. You know what I'm saying? Shouts out to my man Christopher Untitled Jones, you know what I'm saying, back in Detroit, you know, doing his thing, man, you know, a real, true, genuine neo-soul poet, spoken word artist, you know what I'm saying, that has a lot to accomplish and a lot to say. And brothers like Ren Sen out of Detroit that's doing his thing, you know what I'm saying. But let me get back to really talking about what my album is really going to consist of, because I really want to talk about the fact that my album, Memoirs of a Neo-Soul Poet, is a genre of music that has been a part of our musical history. It just hasn't been given shape and definition and given the light, you know what I'm saying, that I intend to give it, you know what I'm saying. This is one of the reasons why people that are familiar with me on Facebook, they hear me say, let there be light, or let the light shine, is because, you know, oftentimes we're not expressive enough to tell others how we feel about certain things. Some of us can express things better than others, and I feel that it's high time that somebody express how we feel about life, about love, about the struggle, about our past, you know what I'm saying, about history, you know what I'm saying, and that it's time for someone to give voice to this and let the people know, you know what I'm saying, what poetry is about, but what life is about. You know what I'm saying? We tend to forget because we get caught up in the influx of everyday life, work, our children, you know what I'm saying? Just trying to make it, you know what I'm saying? And so through my music, each song is like a chapter, a chapter of an encyclopedia of life, and not just an encyclopedia of information, but it's an encyclopedia of life. It's a botanical encyclopedia of various chapters that talk about and discuss issues that we all can identify with, and yet we haven't found anyone or enough people to attach ourselves to who can give expression to it. So I'm giving expression to it. So I want you to get out there and check out my CD, Memoirs of a Neo-Soul Poet. Like I say, I got a website, www.neosoulpoetry.com. You can be introduced to neo-soul poetry, to the movement, underground movement. There's a lot of neo-soul poets around the world, you know what I'm saying. And in another video, I'm going to talk about and tie in, explain how neo-soul poetry is connected to neo-soul music, the history of soul music, you know what I'm saying. I'm going to talk about its connection to jazz music and big beat jazz, you know, from the 20s and 30s. I'm going to talk about a couple different things to help you, you know, get educated. So we got to educate people about our music as well sometimes, you know. A lot of rappers don't give a chance to educate the people. A lot of people think that a lot of rappers are just, you know, hooping and hollering over beats and talking about gun slanging and banging and getting money and throwing money and sex and drugs and rock and roll and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of times rappers, some rappers aren't given the opportunity to educate about their music. Tupac was one of those types of educators. He educated you not only about his music, you know what I'm saying, outside the studio, but he also educated you through his lyrics, through his documentaries, you know what I'm saying, through videos, through recordings like this. He educated the people, and if you get a chance to sit back and look at the body of work of Tupac, you will see he was an educator. And he was just a different type of educator, street scholar. Everybody ain't going to be Dr. Cornel West or Dr. Michael Eric Dyson, you know what I'm saying. Shout out to them brothers, two highly intelligent leaders in our community. You know, Cornel West doing his thing on the spoken word too. But you know, in a nutshell, you know, it amounts to us giving expression and free reign to this movement. You know what I'm saying? It's a movement out here. There's a lot going on. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to talk about all these issues. I got some more videos coming. A whole lot of what needs to be said isn't being said, and I feel that the time is right. And I'm going to say what needs to be said to our community.